More than anyone else, Richard Boone detested him. Richard Allen Boone was born in Los Angeles, California, on June 18, 1917. Boone was raised in an artistic and culturally influenced household. Kirk E. Boone, his father, was a corporate attorney. Cecile, his mother, had ancestry with Daniel Boone, the renowned American pioneer. At first, young Richard had no intention of pursuing acting, even though the public would eventually find this lineage interesting. While attending Hoover High School in Glendale, California, Boone became interested in literature and sports at a young age. He went on to pursue liberal arts at Stanford University after graduating. But after 2 years, he dropped out of school to pursue other options since he quickly realized that the academic road was unsatisfying. His diverse range of occupations, which included painting, bartending, and oil field labor, instilled in him a tough working-class authenticity that subsequently permeated his film roles. Boone joined the U.S. Navy when World War II broke out and served in the Pacific Theater as an aviation ordnance man on aircraft carriers. His time in the military not only helped him develop a strict work ethic, but also gave him a sense of purpose and seriousness that he took into his acting career. Boone chose to focus his energies and experiences on performing after the war in search of a new path in life. Studying under the renowned Stella Adler at the Actors Studio in New York City, he joined a generation of actors dedicated to character-driven and emotionally honest performances. Boone's professional career started on stage, when he appeared in touring musicals and Broadway plays. His powerful aura and inherent gravitas immediately drew the attention of casting directors in Hollywood. He starred in the World War II movie Halls of Montezuma in 1951. Additionally, he displayed his versatility in a number of films throughout the 1950s, including crime thrillers, military dramas, and westerns like The Robe, 1953, and The Tall T, 1957. But Boone's most memorable role, the one that would cement his reputation in television history, came in 1957 when he was chosen to play Paladin, the slick, black-clad hired gunfighter on the CBS Western series Have Gun, Will Travel. Boone presented Paladin as a man who could quote literature as easily as he pulled out his weapon, a rare combination of sophisticated intelligence and deadly prowess, for 6 seasons between 1957 and 1963. As a result of Boone's ability to bring nuance and moral ambiguity to a genre that frequently features flat characters, the series went on to become one of the most well-liked and highly regarded television programs of its era. Boone not only acted but also actively participated in the production of his work. He advocated for narratives that delved deeper into topics like justice, honor, and the ambiguities of morality, and he frequently worked with others on script creation. The Richard Boone Show, an ambitious anthology series that allowed Boone to demonstrate his versatility by portraying a different character every week, lasted from 1963 to 1964 after Have Gun, Will Travel. Despite its brief run, the show received accolades for its bold idea and excellent narrative. During the 1960s and 1970s, Boone starred in a number of well-known movies, including Rio Conchos, 1964, The Kremlin Letter, 1970, Big Jake, 1971, and The Shootist, 1976, which co-starred him with John Wayne once more in the actor's last picture. Boone was one of the most versatile actors of his generation, able to switch between films and television, between hero and villain, with ease. Off-screen, Boone was renowned for his wit, intelligence, and conviction. In the late 1960s, he relocated to Hawaii in search of a more tranquil and independent way of life. There, he continued to appear in a few projects, taught drama at the University of Hawaii, and embraced the Hawaiian way of life. Friends and co-workers frequently commented on his great regard for the performing profession and his readiness to coach up-and-coming actors. Each of the 3 notable marriages that characterized Richard Boone's personal life highlighted a distinct phase of his life and work. He married Jane Hopper for the first time in 1937. During this time, Boone was still establishing himself as a young man and had not yet started the renowned acting career that would come to characterize him. Their 3-year marriage ended in 1940, shortly before Boone's life would drastically alter due to his World War II duty and his eventual decision to pursue acting. Boone got married a second time in 1949, over 10 years later, to Mimi Kelly. This marriage was also brief, ending in divorce in 1950 after little under a year. 1951 saw Boone marry Claire McAloon, a woman he would stay married to for the remainder of his life. His most enduring and steady partnership, it gave him family life and personal fulfillment during the height of his Hollywood career and beyond. The two were close until Boone's passing in 1981, after 3 decades that included both successes and setbacks in Boone's personal and professional lives. Peter Boone is the only child Richard and Claire had together. In a few episodes of Have Gun, Will Travel, the classic CBS television series in which Richard Boone played the shrewd gun-for-hire hero, Peter, at least momentarily, followed in his father's footsteps as a kid actor. In addition to giving viewers an intimate look into the Boone family dynamic, Peter's appearances illustrated the close bonds between father and son. Even though Peter eventually decided to pursue a career outside of acting as he grew older, his early work with his father is still a sweet and unforgettable anecdote in the history of one of the most enduring westerns on television. Richard Boone was a man who didn't hold back while speaking or concealing his emotions with a kind Hollywood smile. Boone was well known for his rough features, gravelly voice, and imposing presence on and off film. He also had a strong sense of pride and an unwavering moral compass. He believed that respect was not acquired via celebrity or fortune, but by the way one handled other people, whether they were a studio grip, another actor, or the man sweeping the soundstage. Throughout his decades in the entertainment business, Boone encountered people of all backgrounds, including the modest, the haughty, the real, and the phony. He could put up with a certain amount of hubris, and if artistic vanity was supported by talent, he could handle it. However, there was a man whose name seemed to evoke in Boone something more profound than irritation. He once confessed that he detested Kirk Douglas more than any other person in Hollywood. The hostility wasn't the sort of casual distaste that performers occasionally experience after a small argument on set. Years of first-hand observations and professional interactions had fueled this long-simmering, deeply ingrained contempt. Boone thought Douglas exemplified boastfulness, a trait he detested in men, vanity, and an almost obsessive desire to take over every space he entered. Kirk Douglas was not only confident, in Boone's opinion. He was conceited in the most admirable way, walking around Hollywood as though his success was the result of his own excellence. As for Douglas, he had no regrets about his aggressive nature. He frequently talked about rising from poverty to fame by working hard, and maybe he thought that explained why he was so hostile. However, Boone believed that Douglas' treatment of those he viewed as inferior was unacceptable. In Hollywood, there were rumors that Douglas was disputing the director's authority in front of the crew, removing lines from co-stars' screenplays to get more screen time, and engaged in behind-the-scenes politicking that frequently infuriated co-workers. Every new instance simply heightened Boone's disdain, which he had either personally observed or heard about from people he trusted. According to Boone, acting is a team sport, and he placed more importance on friendship and loyalty than on individual success. Boone found it disgraceful that someone with Douglas's level of authority would use it to undermine rather than to advance others. They met in the social circles of the affluent in Hollywood. Boone frequently felt suffocated by Douglas' exaggerated personality, even though he was by no means timid or quiet. Boone found Kirk's loud chuckle, tendency to promote himself, and tendency to retort to himself in any conversation annoying. Boone occasionally excused himself early from industry events rather than put up with more of Douglas's boastful stories. Friends saw that any time Douglas entered the room, Boone, who was usually gregarious and engaging, became distinctly colder and more aloof. Boone's comments to confidants were clear-cut. However, it is unclear if the two ever publicly addressed one another about their hatred. Douglas, he once said, was a man so enamored with his own image that he forgot there were other people. Someone who knew Boone well made a scathing remark that went unnoticed. Envy did not breed Boone's contempt. Boone was a well-known actor at the time their careers crossed paths in the public eye. He had a loyal following from Have Gun and Will Travel, and was known for being a man who could carry a movie or TV series on his own. Instead, Douglas had broken every rule of his personal code, which was the foundation of his animosity, according to Boone. Although there are many rivalries in Hollywood, the Boone-Douglas feud was unique from other professional rivalry because it was personal. Two actors who didn't get along wasn't the only issue. A conflict of core ideals was at issue. Boone was the epitome of honesty and deference to peers. Boone, at least, saw Douglas as a symbol of the ruthless ambition that might transform artistic expression into self-serving extravaganza. During his career, Boone undoubtedly came across other challenging individuals, but none left him with the same lingering resentment as Kirk Douglas. Whether their hate was one-sided or reciprocal, Boone never concealed it from people who mattered to him. Kirk Douglas was the man he detested the most out of all the people he had encountered in Hollywood. Industry sources and set reports suggested that their animosity for one another was well known. There were times when Boone's animosity toward Douglas almost erupted into direct conflict, and he was sometimes openly stern with him. Boone would frequently keep his distance from Douglas if they were in the same social circle, whispering to friends about his peacock strut or his propensity to treat people like cogs in the Kirk Douglas machine. Being a team player on set was something Boone took great pleasure in, and he was annoyed by Douglas's tendency to dominate every scene and outshine his co-stars, not just with skill, but with sheer vanity. As his own imposing self-confidence frequently shielded him from the views of others he considered rivals or less significant, Douglas may have actually hardly realized the full scope of Boone's animosity. But Boone had strong emotions. In his private chats, Boone would frequently single out Douglas as the one actor in the business that he couldn't stand. He had battled with other performers in his day, sometimes over artistic disagreements and other times over politics. According to his friends, Boone detested Douglas so much that he would decline offers if he knew Douglas was involved, saying he would rather lose out on a nice salary than put up with what he saw as an intolerable workplace. Richard Boone ended a great life and career that had made a lasting impact on film, television, and the performing arts on January 10, 1981, at the age of 63. He passed away at his home in St. Augustine, Florida, a city he had grown to adore in his later years for its timeless elegance, slower pace of life, and lack of the Hollywood spotlight. Boone had been battling throat cancer, a disease that had a significant impact on his voice and overall health, two vital aspects of his acting career. The throat carcinoma caused serious and escalating consequences. They gradually weakened him physically and made speaking one of his most powerful performance tools, painful and challenging. Boone had pursued several medical interventions, but the illness was unrelenting. In spite of his illness, he managed to preserve some of his privacy and dignity by avoiding undue publicity in his last months, and instead choosing to spend peaceful time with his loved ones and close friends. Boone had a strong bond with the Pacific, especially Hawaii, where he had previously lived and worked extensively, and his last resting place wishes after his death reflected this. He had spent a large amount of his later career in Hawaii, even recording some of his television work there, and he had grown to love the state's peaceful way of life and natural beauty. In keeping with his wish to be associated with the ocean he loved forever, his ashes were dispersed in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Hawaii. Boone, who had spent a large portion of his life in continual motion and adventure, was able to rest in the infinity of the Pacific Ocean thanks to this symbolic and intensely personal last deed. His admirers, friends, and family saw his ashes being scattered over those seas as a fitting way to conclude the life of an actor whose tough demeanor and strong voice had made him a legendary figure in American entertainment history.